Hi Tyrone, how are you? You're all the way in Lusaka in Zambia, I think.
Hi, Rose. Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, so no, nice to be able to chat to you from over here. Yeah, and how are you doing?
Yeah, all good, all good. I do wish that I was in Zambia as well. You just got back from Kafue as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're just winding up for some of our camp sort of renovations, and so yeah, we're in and out of Lusaka at the moment, but I'm in Lusaka today, and hope to be back in the bush in the next day or two.
Oh my God, amazing. You're kind of gearing up now. Zambia's open, and you'll be getting some kind of resident bookings and then kind of international bookings coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so we're still in the system, as it were. October's still pretty busy, but we expect a few of those maybe to fall away. But we're still confident of getting at least half of those folk to come in, and we're actually seeing some new bookings already for especially November period, which is a lovely month out here. So yeah, and to fill in the gaps, if there's anyone within Zambia or the region that fancies coming out to Kafue, then we hope they'll find us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all looking a bit more positive for everyone, which is really, really exciting. Let's start from your kind of childhood. Was kind of the bush and wildlife a big part of your childhood? How did you kind of know you wanted to be a guide and be in tourism?
Yeah, good question. Well, I'm English, so my childhood um, was, and I'm an only child, so it was spent in entertaining myself. And I'm from quite a rural area, so I
Yeah.
didn't take the bike out and the fishing rod and entertain myself with fishing. And I was always into to birds and yeah, and nature generally. So that was, I was always that kid at school that when a kestrel flew over, I'd be more into it than the next folk. But yeah, that was me. But I was very lucky as well, being my father, who raised me for the majority of my life, is just a big wildlife enthusiast himself, and he used to work in the international travel sort of cargo industry many years ago. And so he traveled a lot, and anything that he could tie into wildlife, he would. And so often he would take me with him. With that came safari being a big part of his interest, and he'd always wanted to do. So yeah, from a very young age, I think I was 5 when he first took me on safari to East Africa. And then yeah, a few years later, we found ourselves in Zambia, which my father really fell for, and we spent a lot of time in Zambia, and as a consequence, got to know quite a few folk here in Zambia, and I spent a lot of my childhood when I wasn't at school out here too.
God, how amazing. He must have loved seeing you kind of come up in the safari industry and make it kind of your life's work. That must have been amazing. And so, how did you end up settling with Kafui as the place that you were going to have Masakesi camp?
Yeah, another long story, but the long story short, I suppose, again, it was, I wouldn't say forced on me, but we'd traveled. It was my father's favorite park. And so because it's a place that we had a lot of freedom in, and it's still the case now, but 25 years ago, it was even wilder than it is still to this day. And that just really appealed to us and what we looked for. And after we'd done the sort of more big gamey experience early on in our sort of safari, career, yeah, it just ticked all the boxes, and realizing that there are places in Africa where there's so few other people and species of animal and bird that we hadn't even realized existed. You're kind of blinkered early on to the likes of a roan antelope and a sable and things like this. And so, yeah, it was that combination of adventure with unknown, and it just kind of, I think, reminded us that, yeah, a park like the Kafue is actually what it's all about. Once you've got the initial kick of a safari out of your system, or
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very, very well known as one of the proper great wildernesses of Africa, where you really will see very few other people. But you guys have been having absolutely amazing wildlife viewing there the last few seasons, haven't you?
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the other thing that I've seen in my relatively short career, and life in the Kafue is that, yeah, the wildlife, and it just comes with protection. It's not rocket science. Back when I used to go as a kid, it was not very well protected. Just to see an elephant on your safari was quite a thing. But nowadays there are pockets of and areas, and such as the area that we operate our home at Musakesi camp is in, and places like the Busanga Plains, where there's fantastic world-class wildlife to be seen. And as I say, that's just a result of protection and presence. And it's certainly a very positive time overall in the Kafue. So yeah, we're just lucky to have our camps and spend our time now, many years later, in areas and have had a positive impact on these areas.
Yeah, exactly. And so who came in and kind of looked after Kafue? Was it the Zambian government, or was it African parks, or how did all of that come about when it really started to change and become properly protected?
Well, I would say it's still a process. It's certainly, the park is huge. It's absolutely massive. And that's why to date, not one organization has really taken the park by the scruff of its neck and implemented what's needed to be implemented to tackle all the issues at once in a park, which is, I think the 6th largest in the world.
Yeah.
So it's been a gradual process aided by individuals and to be frank, 10, 15 years ago, just camps in areas that had never had any positive presence in it before. So even just, the positive impact of having presence in very remote areas initially has made a big impact. But then added to that, the likes of wilderness safaris that came into the Kafue, I suppose 15 years ago, and the little bit of clout that came with those guys helped that area. But it's been a piecemeal approach, and there are various NGOs that have worked and still work within the Kafue. But as I say, not one sort of silver bullet, as it were, that's taken on the whole park yet. But yeah, you spoke about African parks, and there's relatively quite a lot known of their interest in the Kafue. But as of yet, nothing come of that.
No, but it's like a shining light of how tourism can positively impact, wildlife and areas. As you say, just having a couple more camps, because it's still, all the camps are still very remote, aren't they? But just having a couple more camps covering a few different areas has helped so much, which is amazing. And you guys do all the fun stuff like camera traps and hides and all of that kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still, to this day, we've been at our main camp, Musakesi, for like 8-9 years now. But before we were in the area that the camp is in, it's an area of about 2,500 square kilometers.
Yeah.
And so we still today will, with our guests, for example, open up Google Earth and maybe zoom in at some drainage lines and find pools of water that might be of interest, and take the GPS and go and explore. And I think that's very exciting, and it harks back to the reason why we want to be in the Kafue, is because it still offers that that adventure. We don't walk a set route every time we go on a walking safari. No, we take the opportunity to be in a wilderness like that and go exploring. So yeah, through camera traps and technology like Google Earth, yeah, we really still explore and are still getting to know the area. We still find packs of wild dogs that we had never seen before, that are new to the researchers. For example, last week we found a female cheetah with 2 cubs, and cheetah are the rarest predator in Zambia, certainly. And it turns out we had seen that cheetah once before in 2016, and we hadn't seen her since. And there she was.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so that's how wild the place is. It's good fun.
And I suppose for you guys as guides then, and as you're there a lot, obviously hosting and guiding, and it's your baby, that makes it exceptionally exciting for you, which is another reason why you could easily settle there for a long time, because there's always something different happening.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, and when we decided, myself, my colleague Phil, if we were going to do something ourselves, because it was quite a big undertaking to start up on our own in the tourism sector, that we wanted to enjoy it, and so we kind of brought it back down to what it is that we do enjoy. And the Zambian safari is all about sort of the exploratory nature of it, and being on foot, and not having easy access to areas. And yeah, that's still what we get to do. So it's hugely exciting. But I think hopefully for our guests, they see they are part of that. So it just adds hopefully another little layer to their safari experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds incredibly unique. I haven't actually been yet, which I'm very aware of and desperate to go. And I know this chat is going to make me want to get on a flight straight away. So you've obviously travelled a lot in Africa. Apart from Zambia, outside of Zambia, what are your favourite parts of Africa?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the places that jump out that I've been to in recent years, which are just absolutely amazing, astonishing places. I've been lucky to spend quite a bit of time up in Zakuma National Park in Chad the last few years.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, Rose. It is as special as it's perceived to be. It really is, really amazing. So yeah, that has to be up there. But very differently to somewhere like Zakuma, I was lucky to spend some time in the Sanga Lodge with Rod Cassidy, up in the CAR as well, and that just for very different reasons. Being the rainforest environment for me was absolutely fascinating. I thought it was great. Yeah. So yeah, those are the two areas that really stick out to me in recent years that I've enjoyed spending time in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And so conservation-wise, obviously we've touched on it a little bit. Are there any kind of projects within Zambia or in Kafue that are very close to your heart or that you guys are involved with?
Yeah, so I mean, we actively, involved or interested in conservation across the country, just because myself and Phil actually, we know each other from university. We studied conservation biology and ecology, so that's our interest from school, from university. So we follow it keenly, and it's actually why 3 years ago we decided to set up our own non-profit organization to aid in the protection of the northeastern part of the Kafue, the area they call Musekesi and the Lumbea. So we set up an NGO called Musekesi Conservation ourselves, basically because the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, the government, they of their own admission struggle to protect a park this size with the funds that they receive to do so. So we simply offered assistance, and in doing so, we had to formalize that through creating an NGO, and that's grown from strength to strength, and we now have trained and recruited, trained, and support 3 teams of anti-poaching rangers in that Musekesi Lumbea area, which, as I said, is 2,500 square kilometers. So it's still a drop in the ocean, but it's a start, and the teams are doing really well. Yeah.
God, that is an amazing kind of legacy to either leave behind you or to just be a part of now. And so have you felt the pressure with obviously the lack of tourism, which I presume funds everything, with the pandemic? How have you kind of gone about trying to keep everything going? Because I understand from lots of other people it has been a real struggle for these NGOs at the moment.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, when we started Musekesi Conservation, we were very proud, and we hoped that we would set precedent that to have a tourism operation, not just sort of ad hoc support conservation, but actually run a conservation NGO separately. For example, the first full year of operations, 70 to 80% of the operation of Musekesi Conservation, the operational budget, was funded through the revenues of Jeffrey and McKeith safaris.
Yeah.
So, well, that's great. That's brilliant, and hopefully that will set precedent for other tourism operators to really take conservation seriously and become a real part of it. Now, of course, in the time of COVID, we've felt that we, in theory, have left Musekesi Conservation short because we don't have those revenues this year. And so, we've learned not a harsh lesson, but we've learned a lesson that we should not be overly reliant on one or the other revenue stream. And I think that's probably the major lesson that we've learned, that whilst tourism certainly has to pay more than it is supporting conservation. So like I said previously, just being present in an area is good, but it isn't enough. But likewise, we shouldn't be overly reliant, because in a year like now, and maybe this happens again, that the tourism sector doesn't have the money either to put into conservation. And so, yeah, at the moment, we're trying to balance that with more grant-based, income as well. Developmental grants to aid the reduction in tourism aiding the conservation. So basically, finding a happy medium where we're not overly reliant on one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. I've had exactly that conversation with a couple of people in the last month. Just that, they're going to have to just try and find other avenues. And I think hopefully the tourism will come back, and then you guys will have these other avenues as well. And, the NGOs will boom from that. So my favorite question, can we have your wildest, most exciting safari experiences, please?
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I listened to a few of your other podcasts, and I haven't had a career as long as some of the others. But what do they say? There's old guides and bold guides, but no old bold guides. But hopefully, I'm there after a few more years. But no, I've had lots of run-ins, but I'm still here. What have been some good ones? Very recently, we went exploring, myself and my colleague Phil, to an area that we'd only ever been to once, a place called Chubembe Salt Pan, which is inaccessible. There's no roads in a vast area of the Kafue. So we decided to walk, and we walked we'd left the boat, and we took a roll mat with us and some bully beef, and thought, right, let's go and spend a night in this area we'd only ever, I think, flown over before. Quite a mystical area. It was a place where it was believed the last black rhino had been seen in the Kafue. So anyway, off we went, and it was quite a ways in, and we were pretty knackered, drank most of our water, got to this salt pan, and it was sort of 1 PM, pretty hot. And as we climbed up to this pan's like a hill, actually. We thought it was flat, but it's actually had to climb up. And there was one bed of reeds, and now we're about 15 kilometers from the river. So not expecting much game in there on this salt pan. And as we got up to the top, not 5 meters away, were a growl from the reeds, and out of the reeds shot 3 lions. Just like the last thing we were thinking about. Completely hadn't seen all of an hour, and then and out they came and shot straight towards us. And one of the females, we had obviously very much woken them up in this cool setting in this pan, but we were now on the top of this small hillock, where they were on the bottom circling round us. So we managed to sit that out, which seemed like a few hours, but was probably only a few minutes, as this lioness and her sort of sub-adult cubs managed to slowly stop charging us and move back towards the shade. So that was quite a fun one recently, yeah.
Yeah, how amazing, how amazing. And it's kind of, I mean, it proves kind of what experienced and what good guides you are, because that kind of situation, there's nothing else you could have done apart from wait it out, is there? I mean, where could you have gone? There was nowhere, probably.
Certainly, it was one of those, every ounce of our patience and calmness had to be tested in that one. But no, we were there was plenty of places for them to move, and so we were quite confident that they would. They were not hemmed in. But yeah, no, it was in retrospect good fun.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing, once it's over, you think, God, that was wonderful. But at the time, it's exciting. So lastly, is there anywhere else in the world outside of Africa which is on your bucket list?
Oh, wow. Geez, where would I like to go? Yeah, I've always liked to go to Borneo. Thought that would be an interesting place. The coastal, marine, and the forest there too. As I said, my father spent a bit of time there over the years, and he's always spoken very fondly of that part of the world. So yeah, that would be on my list. Likewise to the Pantanal. There's a lot of interesting stuff there nowadays. I'm not too sure if I like to see all the boats along some of these photos and videos I've seen of some of these poor jaguars crossing. But if we can avoid that, then I'd very much like to see that. So yeah, that'd be a destination.
Well, you and Phil will just have to go to the Pantanal and just head off by yourselves.
Yeah, that we'd probably bump into something, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, Tyrone, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm due out in Zambia at end of October, and we hope to kind of send some clients to you guys in the meantime. But that was really kind, and that was really fun to hear your kind of stories.
No, good stuff. No, thanks for your time, and yeah, no, it's nice to chat. And yeah, absolutely. If you're out in October, then yeah, do please come and see us. The more people that come to the Kafue and actually see it, that's the only way to yeah to know what really goes on out here. So yeah, no, thanks, and let us know.
Perfect. Thanks, Tyrone. Take care.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.